cigarettes and rocket fuel, until America meets the challenge of putting a man on the moon.
We choose to go to the moon.
0. All engines running. Commit.
We choose to go to the moon.
Liftoff. We have liftoff at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Suck it to me,
Go
baby.
all the way. Everything looks good. Roger. All right, copy.
KHCN-AM 4747, Houston, Texas. News you can use and talk that matters.
Braniff girls are nicer. Don't ask me why. Well, we'll tell you anyway. First of all, we hire nice girls. Nice and peppy and extroverted and happy with themselves. Girls who love to fly, who love to dress nice, who get a kick out of people. And we put them in beautiful Poochie originals. And we decorate the interiors of our planes brighter and gayer. So there is a spirit to a Braniff flight. There's a snap, a verve that you don't always find. It pervades the cabin and everybody feels it. And they feel better. You'll see. Fly Braniff, the lovely airline.
Today is Sunday, March 2nd, 1969. The Tim's Timepieces time at the tone is 2 p.m. If your timepiece is right only twice a day, get down to Tim's Timepieces in Rice Village.
Today is Space Talk Sunday with Alex and Andy. But first, the news.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Steve Schaefer with a recap of the week's news you can use. During a European tour that took him to Belgium, England, Germany, Italy, and France, President Richard Nixon warned the Soviet bloc that the United States and its NATO allies will never bow to pressure from any source when it comes to keeping free from communism the city of West Berlin, where he spoke Wednesday. On Saturday, after 2 days of talks with French President Charles de Gaulle in Paris, President Nixon expressed hope that his efforts in Europe might prevent what he called any future diplomatic logjam among Western partners. Former President Dwight Eisenhower's doctors said that although he remains weak from pneumonia, the 78-year-old general felt well enough Saturday to eat soft foods. According to a bulletin from Walter Reed Army Medical Center, there are no major indications of further strain on Eisenhower's heart, but his physicians are continuing to monitor his condition closely. Fighting in 2 villages on the fringes of Saigon cost more than 200 American troops their lives in Vietnam this past week. In an offensive that began last Sunday and stretched over days, the North Vietnamese seized the villages of Dong Loc and Ho Nai, both located near an American base just north of Saigon. U.S. officials said retaliatory artillery and airstrikes by the United States inflicted heavy casualties on the enemy, with an estimated 3,500 North Vietnamese soldiers killed. Much closer to home, Rice University is looking for a new president. Again, University of Chattanooga president and Rice alum William H. Masterson had been named the Houston school's 4th president, but he resigned Tuesday after numerous students and faculty complained that a faculty advisory committee was never consulted in the decision. Rice has been searching for a president since Dr. Kenneth Pitzer resigned last year. The Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo claimed a world record sale this week. A Charolais cow and calf were sold for a whopping $86,000 to a ranch in Florida. Makes 40 or so cents a pound for hamburgers seem pretty reasonable. The 1969 Major League Baseball season, which brings the debut of divisional play and new teams in Kansas City, Seattle, San Diego, and Montreal, is out of jeopardy. A prolonged strike was averted by Tuesday's settling of a $5.5 million pension dispute between players and owners. But absent from the diamond will be slugger Mickey Mantle, who on Saturday announced his retirement at age 37. Mantle spent 18 seasons with the Yankees, during which New York won 7 World Series titles and 5 additional American League pennants, and the switch hitter's 536 home runs place him 3rd on the all-time list, behind only Babe Ruth and Willie Mays. Of note to Houstonians, Mantle was the first man to hit a homer in a game at the Astrodome, where the Yankees and Astros played an exhibition before the start of the 1965 season.
Get your tickets now to see Percy Faith this Saturday in the Coliseum. He will conduct the Houston Symphony in a selection of Broadway and Hollywood hits and popular folk songs. Tickets are $1.50 each, and they're available at all 5 Foley stores. Get yours before they're all gone.
Coming up next, Alex Stuckey and Andrew Dansby will be discussing in depth what was a lot of news on the Apollo and space fronts this past week. I'm Steve Schaefer.
You're listening to KHCN-AM 4747, Houston, Texas.
Thanks, Steve, and welcome back, y'all, to Space Talk Sunday with Alex and Andy. Glad you're spending your time with us on this cloudy and cool Houston winter afternoon. We're here to fill you in on all the Apollo news at Cape Kennedy and right here in Houston, down at the Manned Spacecraft Center at Clear Lake. Andy, the wind really started blowing out there a couple hours ago, but it seems to have calmed down now.
Turning out to be a typical March day here in Space City. Thanks for listening in.
So, folks, just keep on doing what you're doing, and Andy and I will get you all caught up and ready for the week ahead, as we always do. You remember last week? We were all looking forward to the launch of Apollo 9. The crew was going to be 3 days into a 10-day mission by the time we gathered here this week. Well, that Saturn V is still sitting in the go position at Cape. Turns out our heroes were felled by a, quote, mild viral respiratory illness, the common cold, the same ailment that afflicts mere mortals like you and me. The doctors have been warning NASA that the training requirements are too hard for these men, and this week's turn of events suggests their concerns might have been well placed. Or maybe even astronauts can just catch a cold.
But they're finally going on Monday. They're at T-minus, well, something less than 24 hours as we are sitting here today.
Folks, here's a refresher in case you missed it. The boys were supposed to be on their way on Friday, but 16 hours out, Mission Control pulled the plug and recycled the countdown to T-minus 42. They picked up the count at 7:30 GMT yesterday. That's 1:30 a.m. yesterday here. Now we're all counting down to 10 a.m. tomorrow.
It is not a good time for these men to be knocked down. They have a lot of work to do, and the program really does not have 3 days to spare. These Apollo missions are taking baby steps all the way to the moon. Of course, we all know that's what they need to do, and we all want those astronauts to be safe. Anyway, back to those baby steps. Apollo 8 went around the backside of the moon. I know y'all know all this. They had a little trouble, and it was scary for a minute, but it turned out okay, and the engineers say they fixed those problems going forward.
That's exactly why they're taking those baby steps. Apollo 8's mission was to make sure we could get men up there, fly them around the moon, and bring them back safe. And with a little unwelcome excitement, that they did.
With that Saturn rocket still sitting on the launch pad at Cape, I guess we have time to fill in some of the gaps in case you're new to town, or just have not been able to pay attention to all the details. Anyway, Apollo 9 is a shakedown mission for Gumdrop and Spider, and that might take some explaining to the newcomers. Mission Control needs 2 names for the spaceships this trip and for the rest of the Apollo program. When they separate the lunar module from the command service module up there, they'll have 2 spaceships in flight for a while, so they need 2 call signs. So Capcom can talk to the right pilot and the correct aircraft, so nobody gets confused.
Word is the big bosses aren't too happy with the names, Gumdrop and Spider. But the crew got to pick the names, so Gumdrop and Spider it is.
Anyway, when the command module arrived at Cape from the contractor, North American Aviation, they built it. The capsule was all covered up in some blue wrapping. They say it looked like a big gumdrop, so that's what it is. She's Gumdrop. The lunar module looks kind of gangly with those long legs, so I guess Spider makes sense.
It's hard to believe we're flying a gumdrop to the moon, Andy. Wonder what the Reds will think of that. We have more spiffy Apollo 9 stuff to talk about, but first, let's take a little break. We'll be right back.
Play Weingarten's exciting Let's Go to the Races. 2 ladies from Houston, S. Robinson and N. McCoy, both won $100 last week. R. Stoneham from Willis and Miss J. Young of Freeport, Texas were also in the money at Weingarten's. Race down to Weingarten's for this week's specials. Fresh, crisp head lettuce, 17 cents. Golden ripe bananas, 14 cents per pound. Spicy Tabasco peppers, 21 cents per pound. And so much more in our produce department. And the meat cases are also full of deals. Lean, meaty spare ribs, 29 cents per pound. Premium sliced bacon, 79 cents per pound. Barbecue-style Boston butt pork roast, just 55 cents per pound. Cookies, clusters, donuts, all fresh, made in the bakery. Fresh bread, 2 loaves for just 49 cents. That bread will taste so good with Bluebonnet whipped Oleo. Just 31 cents for a 1-pound package. And don't forget to pick up your winning ticket. This week's ticket number is 2011, and the color is blue for Thursday night's races. Every Thursday night at 9:30 on Channel 13. We will see you at Weingarten's.
You're listening to KHCN-AM 4747, Houston, Texas. News you can use and talk that matters.
Welcome back, folks. We're discussing the objectives for this Apollo number 9 mission, and here it is. Apollo 9's job is to test all the hardware and double-check all the procedures. Harder than it sounds. They're going to separate the Command and Service Module, the CSM, that's Gumdrop, from the landing module, Spider, for the first time. The LEM was supposed to go up on 8. They were still having problems with it, so this is the first time they're flying the whole package and taking the LEM for a test drive. They have to undock, fly her around for the very first time, rendezvous, and redock. That means 2 guys.
If that maneuver does not go as planned, and Mission Control is not confident that it will, then America just might not meet Mr. Kennedy's deadline of landing on the moon by the end of this year. There's only time for a couple of tries scheduled before the calendar runs out.
Right. As I was saying, that means 2 guys, Commander McDivitt and Schweickart, have to buckle into Spider, separate the module, and shove off, then hook up again, all for the first time. It's a life or death deal. Spider is not built for re-entry, coming back to Earth, so they gotta hook back up in order to get home. And before they do all that, Schweickart and Scott will be out of the command module making a spacewalk. An EVA, they call it, stands for extravehicular activity. They need to test the PLSS. Man, NASA sure loves those acronyms. The PLSS is the Portable Life Support System. It's the backpack you'll see Rusty wearing. Schweickart is going to take the walk. Scott is supposed to stand on the porch and watch that he, Schweickart, can complete his task wearing the PLSS in space, like he does in the lab. Can Rusty move around, manipulate his hands, tools? Just another day at work for those guys, I guess. But just imagine floating around up there hanging on by one hand and a rope.
Chris Kraft, the flight ops chief at MSC here in Houston, told reporters last week that the chance of 100% success for Apollo 9 is, quote, pretty slim. The mission is the most complicated mission yet, by far. There's a lot of pride on the line here, and we have faith that they are up to the task. But this delay is racking some nerves over there. And right here in the studio, too.
Well, frankly, the program can't go on without 100% success this time. And success is not guaranteed. Everything, machine and men, are getting tested for when the money is really on the line. When Apollo 11 is headed to the moon.
So this is really a make-or-break scenario, then?
Yes, all or nothing. The weatherman says it's going to be in the low 60s and fair at Cape Kennedy, so it looks like a go. We're all hoping for a good show and a safe mission, all the way to splashdown week after next.
Well, Alex, since with this delay we can't share mission updates with the listeners, let's tell folks a little bit about the astronauts who will be aboard Apollo 9. First off, there's Commander James McDivitt. He's 39 years old. He's from Chicago. He was a Boy Scout, only made it to tenderfoot, so that's nothing to write home about. He did better in college, was first in his class with a degree in aeronautical engineering. He's married with a whole station wagon full of kids. He joined the Air Force in 1951 and eventually went back to school and finished his degree at Michigan. He's a Group 2 astronaut selected in 1962. The rigors of space travel are not new for him. He commanded Gemini 4. Ed White made the first U.S. spacewalk on that mission.
And fun fact, McDivitt was the first Roman Catholic to fly into space.
And there's David Scott, 36 years old. He'll be piloting the command module. He's from San Antonio and graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point. Also a Boy Scout, he made it all the way to Life Scout. After West Point, he joined the Air Force. Of course, the Air Force didn't have its own academy yet, so they let a bunch of West Pointers who wanted to fly into the Air Force. He flew F-86 Sabres and F-100 Super Sabres with the 32nd Tactical Fighter Squadron in Europe for 4 years, and then picked up a couple advanced degrees at MIT. Scott was selected with Astronaut Group 3 in 1963 and flew with Neil Armstrong on Gemini 8 in 66. And finally, Russell Lewis Rusty Schweickart. That's a name. He'll be piloting the lunar module, Spider. He's 33 years old, from New Jersey. He's a farm boy. Always wanted to be a cowboy and a pilot, he says. Also a Boy Scout, first class. Also has degrees from MIT. After graduation, he was a pilot with the Air Force and the Massachusetts Air National Guard. Also selected with Group 3 in 63. This is his first space flight. Like I said, he's the LEM pilot and will be taking the first spacewalk of the Apollo program, testing that life support system.
Speaking of heroic astronauts, there's big news from NASA this week. Buzz Aldrin is expected to be the first man to walk on the moon.
That's right, Alex. He's a Korean War combat pilot, went to West Point. He currently holds the record for longest spacewalk for the USA, or the Soviets, during Gemini 12. His spacewalk, more of a marathon, was 2 hours and 28 minutes.
Now, we've known for several months, since January, right, that Buzz, Neil Armstrong, and Michael Collins would be going to the moon. But who would be the first man on the moon is new, yes? That means Armstrong will be second and Collins will be watching it all, piloting Gumdrop, just going round and round the moon.
Yes, indeed. That is correct, Alex. And it is a big deal. Everyone wants to be the first. He'll be in the history books. Hard to imagine the feeling of being the first man making footprints on the moon. Apollo 11 will be the first ship to give that a try, and you know they want to get it right. They want to be first.
Folks, next week we hope we'll all be talking about a beautiful launch and all the good, necessary work the boys aboard Apollo 9 are doing, the crew at Cape, and all the men at the MSC, too. Miss Amber is here with our Space City Social. News from the lighter side. You never know what nifty tidbits she's going to come up with, so stick around. I'll be right back with a closing thought. But first, here's an important message.
Wouldn't it be wonderful to never have to scrub another tub? Ever stop to think why you're a slave to that bathtub ring? When Houston's hard water combines with soap, it forms that sticky, gummy curd that takes plenty of elbow grease and strong cleansers to remove, and ruins your lovely hands in the process. Stop slaving. Enjoy the soft life. Call Lindsay, the soft water people, and find out how soft water can liberate you from bathtub ring, spots, and streaked glassware, and cut your house cleaning time by a third, economically.
So Apollo 9 is launching Monday. Knock wood. That big rocket has got to go. Rusty's got to nail his spacewalk. Undocking and redocking Spider safely is key to the next couple Apollo missions. That portable life support system has got to do its job. We're looking forward to Buzz bouncing around on the moon in a few months wearing one too. If all that goes well, folks, we are indeed going to beat the commies to the moon. We're all on pins and needles these next couple months, and we know you are too. Come back next week and we'll get through this thing together. Space City Social with Miss Amber is coming right up, and then Steve Schaefer will be along with Sunday afternoon sports and a few early scores. See you next week, Andy.
Look what $15,950 will buy. Brand spanking new gold medallion all-electric home, central air, modern central heat. Did we mention all brick construction? Imagine driving up your concrete driveway and gliding into your new room-finished garage, greeting your family in the safety and security of your new home in Friendswood, Whitehall. In the NASA area, where all the action is. Excellent and nearby elementary, junior, and senior high schools, only a short drive to Clear Lake. Shopping? Easy access to Alameda Mall and downtown Houston via the Gulf Freeway. Come see for yourself. Call ahead to make an appointment. 2 tiled full baths, 3 spacious bedrooms, nylon carpet, black walnut paneled kitchen with, of course, a shiny new electric range and oven, disposal and dishwasher. A sliding glass patio door leads out to a play yard for the kids and a relaxation oasis for the grown-ups. Call, tell them Nan sent you, and tell them you heard this ad on KHCN-AM 4747 for a very special gift when you come by for a tour. We'll see you in Friendswood.
This is Miss Amber with Space City Social. Many of you young ladies are still reeling from a lonely Valentine's Day, and Mrs. Claire Booth Luce thinks she knows just why there are so many single or broken hearts this year. She's 65, a novelist, playwright, politician, diplomat, and self-described champion of women's rights. The girls today who want a husband have to be a lot sexier than in their grandmother's day. That's what she told a glittering crowd celebrating the 70th anniversary of the Women's Athletic Club. It's become harder and harder for young women who do not want children and a home to get and keep their husbands. But it's not all bad news. Where there's a will, there's a way, and she says that way today is super sexiness. For those of you still looking for Mr. Right, the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo is a good place to start. On the prowl for a stylish man, he'll likely be wearing Sakowitz's The Body shirt. It's a polo and an undershirt in one. It's fitted with flashy pearl snaps, and it's available at the chain's downtown, Gulfgate, Post Oak, and Town and Country Village locations. Have a crush will travel? In Hollywood news, Elvis Presley will take the stage in good old Las Vegas this summer. He and Miss Barbra Streisand, who appears first, will become the highest-paid supper club performers in history. Off the record, an undisclosed source says that she'll be paid $250,000 a week. No word on how much bacon Mr. Presley will be taking home. Bill Cosby's on a winning streak. The Emmy Award-winning star of I Spy has been chosen by Harvard University's Hasty Pudding Theatrical's Man of the Year. Try saying that 3 times fast. And across the pond, the world's most eligible bachelor, Prince Charles, future King of England, reportedly had commoners rolling in the aisles as he wisecracked and sang his way through sketches during an annual student review at Trinity College. What we wouldn't give to have been a fly on that wall. This is Miss Amber with Space City Social. Talk to you next week.
This is Steve Schaefer with your Sunday afternoon sports scoreboard. You're listening to KHCN-AM 4747, Houston, Texas. If your timepiece is right only twice a day, get down to Tim's Timepieces in Rice Village. The Tim's Timepieces time at the tone is...
Cigarettes and Rocket Fuel is a Houston Chronicle podcast. There was no such radio station as KHCN-AM 4747, as far as we know. Chronicle reporters Alex Stuckey and Andrew Dansby play Alex and Andy. Fun fact, Dansby loathes the name Andy. Fun fact is Alex's go-to expression. Miss Amber of Space City Social is Houston Chronicle Society reporter Amber Elliott. She is as stylish as she sounds. Staff artist Ken Ellis voices many of the ads and anything else that needs serious radio pipes. By the way, the ads are fake, or at least out of date. The days of 39-cent bacon are long gone, friends. Much of the ad copy was ripped from the pages of the Houston Chronicle and the Houston Post that were published in the months leading up to the giant leap for mankind and womankind. Sports editor Steve Schaefer is the newsman. The news he reports really happened. You bet your bippy. The time at the tone is not 2 p.m. There is no such place as Tim's Timepieces. Web producer Leela Merrill researched and gathered the news you can use and produces our webpage. The Chronicle's archivist and researcher is Joyce Lee. She is amazing. Be sure to always tip your librarian. Our logo was designed by Susan Barber. Scott Kingsley is the producer. Thank you to the many other Houston Chronicle staffers who contribute time and talent to Cigarettes and Rocket Fuel. If you like what you hear, please follow the show. Subscribe wherever you're listening now. You dig? It would be so groovy if you'd truck on over to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating and a swell review. If you're still listening, admit it, man, you love this podcast. You can help other podcast listeners find us too. You cool with that? Please note that Cigarettes and Rocket Fuel is a history podcast, and we in no way intend to glamorize the use of cigarettes, any more than we condone the sexism and racism that existed in society and in newspaper pages in 1969. We hope cigarettes, sexism, and racism all become history one day. Our original theme song, Crayola Girl, was created by Farrell Gibbs. Farrell is the creator and host of the podcast Unhand the Monster Troubadours Live. You can hear more of his music on Spotify. Ferrill Gibbs, Far Out. I'm Nancy Sarnoff, Chronicle real estate writer and host of Looped In, a podcast about Houston real estate. The dirt, the deals, the people, the places. With that, here's Crayola Girl. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Peace and love, y'all.
Flowers on her dress. sunshine.